Guardian, we've picked up a high-gain transmission. Origin point is somewhere along the coast, near the Cosmodrome.
What is up, Guardians? This is Cosmodrome Radio, broadcasting on all frequencies from here to Kaido's flagship, apparently, because we have Iron Banner this week. If you are not in the streets of these different maps, busting it out, and we're back to old school Iron Banner for those who thought we were still playing Fortress and don't know how to capture points. Please make sure you're capturing points.
Yes.
But this is Cosmodrome Radio, the podcast all about Destiny 2 and the great things about it. You can follow us on Twitter at Cosmodrome Radio. You can listen to this podcast pretty much everywhere, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. You check us out there. Everywhere you can possibly think of, short of SoundCloud, because SoundCloud doesn't like us. But it's fine. You can check us out everywhere else but SoundCloud. I'll make that joke. But if you just cannot seem to find us, you can go to cosmodromeradio.com and find us there. All the links for everything are there as well. So definitely look there as well. My name is Panda the Paladin. To my left, we have the person who's just been like warring with people on Twitter as of late, and doesn't and just be fighting in these streets. Tower, how you doing?
God. You made it seem like I'm going, actively going after people.
Just like curb stomping people on Twitter.
No. We don't curb stop here. We throw chonklers.
Oh my gosh.
I am a mom. I live up to my name. I'm doing good, Panda. How are you, honey?
I'm alright. It's been a pretty good day so far. Iron Banner has been sweaty. And please capture points, people. I'm begging you.
Please,
I'm trying to gild my seal for the third time. I need you to capture points, please.
It's like banking moats and Gambit. Just freaking do it.
Like, people think it's Clash. It's not Clash. It's very frustrating, but it's fine. Then Alchemy is not going to be here this evening. He is cooking cheddar biscuits at his day job, but it is fine. If you know where those are located, you know where Alchemy works, but you'll never find the address. It's fine. I'm not doxing him. It's okay. But we actually have a special guest, hanging out with Alchemy. I have enjoyed this man's opinions on the YouTubes for a hot minute. I just sat here, especially recently, his exotic 3.0 idea, going through every exotic in the game and trying to rework them, because I've been bitching and moaning for months and months that every exotic needs a rework, but no one will listen to me. So I felt very vindicated watching this man's videos. Wormkeeper, how are you doing?
Man, I am doing wonderful, and I'm so happy to be here. And I'm glad you enjoyed those videos, because that was a lot of fun making those exotic rework idea videos.
Especially the Titan one, like you made me feel heard on so many things, and it was just so vindicating. Like I'm over here complaining for months. Can we make Eternal Warrior do a thing, please?
Exactly.
ARC 3.0 was the ultimate opportunity, and they wasted it.
Exactly, and Eternal Warrior is one of those ones. It's super only. It only affects your super, and I had a lot to say about exotics that only affect your super. You put them on, use your super, and take them off.
And now with the exotic hot swap thing in Crucible, it's you can't even really utilize things like, say, 14 Helm or Eternal Warrior. It's you get penalized for that. So it's what is the point of this?
Exactly. I was surprised to see they. I'm not surprised, but it was interesting to see them add the addition of that hot swap modifier.
Right, but no, this is a great opportunity to shout out what you do and tell people your Destiny story. We all got woke up by a ghost at some point, so how'd you get into this world?
Way back in 2014, I was a senior in high school. I had just moved about 1,000 miles away from my home, away from all my friends and stuff. But I made a friend group at my new school, and they were big into video games. I was too. And naturally they were like, hey, there's this new game coming out called Destiny. I was like, all right, I'll get it. Sure, we'll try it. And we played together for a few weeks, and they kind of each dropped off one by one, but man, the game really sparked my interest, and I stuck with it through all those through the rough early launch, all the DLCs, even D2's, really rough launch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we had some very dark periods.
We did, and I stuck through them all, continued to play. Yeah, talk about the game all the time, and I figured, hey, why not talk about it on social media with other people, other
Very nice.
like-minded people.
Very nice. And like you be in the forum trenches more than the average person, so it's very commendable of you.
Yeah, every single day I scan the forums, for what's hot, difficulty,
That's what we about to dig into most definitely. But like Worm's links definitely will be in the description. That way you guys can check him out. He makes amazing content, and because he's been so like focused on this, I wanted to bring him on for this specifically because that is the main topic of this episode. We've finally gotten through everything. Next week will probably be PvP focused, and then once we finish all because we kind of reached a precipice with the story that in the seasonal story recently, hashtag RIP holiday, but
spoilers.
It's been a week, it's fine. But once we get closer to the end of the season, we'll do a seasonal recap and get through that. But this week we'll do the difficulty issue, and the next week we'll talk about PvP because PvP is changing, but also there's a lot of hot button issues going on in PvP, mainly SMGs because they do with some problems.
Don't even get me started on PvP topics.
But
stay far away from PvP.
Hey man, you can come hang out with me and Iron Banner. There's no difficulty light enabled right now. You can come have fun, which is my biggest complaint about Iron Banner. But
it's not that makes me stay away from PvP. It's being fem presenting.
That's fair. That's fair.
Playlist.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. So if folks can't remember that right before the season came out, right before Lightfall came out, I was very critical of people who were bashing Bungie or worried about Bungie raising the difficulty of the game, and they had made the announcement hey, this is how we're going to go about this. We're going to add these surges and different things like that to make the difficulty different. We're going to set it up that way things are permanently higher light than you in certain circumstances, similar to the Seraph battlegrounds and whatnot. And I was very about it. I was very much yo, let's do this. Let's hop right in. We've been speed running stuff for too long. We've had it too easy. Let's crank it up. And then I'll be the first one to admit, loading into the first mission of the seasonal content on day 2, even when they force your light up to 1780 something, 1790 something, and you fight that giant meatball for the first time in the battleground, and it took me, in 2 randoms 30 minutes to get through one, I kind of went, damn, I messed up.
For me, it hit me when I tried to do my first Legend Lost Sector.
Oh,
I was at 1790, and I thought, okay, I have all my mods. I thought, okay, I can go in here, and then I see the legend is 1830, and I'm just like, 1830 is the artifact max. Why are you putting a Legend Lost Sector that freaking high? That's contest mode raid difficulty. That's not a Legend Lost Sector. Legend Lost Sector should never be that high.
I mean, if we're at hard cap or pinnacle cap, it's only 20 light above you. But that is kind of is literally contest mode.
Yeah, I was at 1790, 1795, something like that, and I was getting one shot knocked out by frigging Cabal War Beasts, and I should never ever feel like that on a legend,
Well, and something, correct me if I'm wrong here, but aren't master, not legend, isn't master level content 20 levels above your current level? Okay, so again,
Has to be
but
20.
with Lost Sectors here, they made the Legend version of Lost Sectors 20 levels above.
So what's the master?
Master's like
Probably
30.
25.
Oh,
Yeah,
that-
you're
that-
right. 20. It's 25, but when Legend hits like contest mode day one raid, like that's a little much.
it really checks your privilege at the door, especially when you do like the Neo Muna Lost Sectors and there's just like thousands of Cabal. You're just like, yeah, no, this isn't happening.
That was the mistake I made,
Lord.
was doing the hydroponics lab.
Ooh,
I
that was
do it
rough.
on 1830.
I remember the first time I did that, and yeah, I got a little bit of surprise in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it very much caught me off guard. Like, granted, I did like just the normal Lost Sector with someone, and they were like, and they were like straight up just, hey, do you think this is kind of hard or like kind of dense? And I'm like, no, not like a normal Lost Sector, but like a Legend is gonna kick your butt. Like, if like I can breeze through this pretty easily, but if we were on like Legend, oh yeah, no, we would be dead.
Yeah.
Like that's just the fact of the matter at that point. But no, like as I've been watching Worms like videos, and as I finally discovered that people actually use the Bungie forums, I didn't think this like it was that serious. I thought we were just talking about the subreddit, but apparently the Bungie forums are that dense. I'm been skimming over this and seeing how people are very miffed about the difficulty, and it isn't just the Lost Sectors. There's been people complaining about the reworks to certain strikes like Lake of Shadows and Arms Dealer. There's been people complaining about Nightfalls, which, to be fair, making the Mars battleground a Nightfall
Oh, baby.
was probably not the best idea.
No,
That's
no.
brutal. It is brutal.
Yeah.
Because on paper it didn't sound that bad, but then you remember that the boss room has infinitely spawning enemies, and your brain goes, "Oh, that's bad."
Yep. Add to that, like I think it's depending upon how long you're in there, you can end up like encountering up to 10 champions because
Oh,
all the rest of the
Ooh.
ads, the champions spawn.
that's a good way to
infinitely.
mess up your platinum.
Yeah.
Well, and couple that with the fact that there's literally no place to hide
Yeah,
in that final boss room. Like, most boss rooms, there's a place you can kind of get away from the action, take a breather for a brief second. And that one,
the
there's
Glassway
nothing.
hiding in rooms where no one can get you.
Right.
That's like the only reason why Glassway is like beatable as a grandmaster, because if you didn't have those rooms to hide in, you would be dead. There would be no
Oh,
saving
yeah.
you.
Yep.
That's brutal.
Like you
Especially
play
those
that like that GM, you have the giant Hydra boss, you have Wyverns, Overload Minotaurs, freaking one-shotting anti-barrier hobgoblins. Like those things hurt.
Well, and don't
And
We've
forget
also got the mini Hydra too.
oh, the mini
Yeah.
Hydra. Yeah.
the mini Hydra. And don't forget, anytime Glassway is a grandmaster, it always has Void Burn on.
Right, which makes it not that bad in hindsight, especially if you're like me and just run Banner Shield Titan 24/7 in the Glassway, where like nothing can kill you.
Well, when I think of the Void Burn, let's hear the boss does Void damage, the Overloads do Void damage, the Wyverns do Void damage. I mean,
The
those
mini
Wyverns one shot you.
does void damage.
Like,
But see, then you bring in like a Void rocket launcher and a Vortex grenade and a shield throw and like a div, and like nothing can kill you.
I would like to go on the record saying that I bring in stasis for that. For that
But see, like,
Nightfall.
do you run Titan or Warlock?
Warlock. Well, I do both, Warlock and Titan.
Who do you main?
Titan for sure.
That's that good life.
Dang it.
Yes.
Dang it! I was
I'm not alone anymore because like Alchemy her are Titans and it gets I'm not Warlocks and it gets frustrating. I have to be the only Titan in the room.
Okay.
I'm a Warlock main, but my second is a Titan. So
Okay, to be fair, I play all three classes. I'm not gonna say equally, but I do like all three classes for different reasons. But Titan has been like the main one. Like if I'm doing day one raids or something, I'm on the Titan.
Yeah, same.
It's because the Titan has so much in its kit. It's got everything.
You're not wrong. Like even with the nerfs we've caught over the years, like it feels as if like void and stasis primarily are the best ways just to survive end game content, and it's so nice.
Rest in peace, Synthesep plus Glaive combo.
See, and I saw you complaining about that. I saw Cross complaining about it. And here's the thing. You said Synthoseps are going to go back in the closet to die, but like everyone's still abusing the bonk hammer, and it's annoying. So it's like I've been very much a proponent of the bonk hammer build with Synthoseps because it makes it seem like Solar is a viable build for Titans when Solar is actually garbage for Titans because the 3.0 gutted it.
Well, hold on.
Ooh, okay.
Hold on a second,
Okay.
because Solar Titan with a specific build. I shouldn't say General Solar Titan because General Solar Titan's not that great. But if you throw on Lorelei Splendor and have a build around that, like your survivability is absolutely nuts.
Almost definitely. But like, here's the thing. There used to be a point in time where there was more to Solar Titan besides healing. We had things like tempered metal. We had things like sunspots actually being able to kill things en masse when they were 150 per tick. You had there's you can't even really use the supers in endgame content because other than general ad clear, they don't do anything.
That's true.
And then we had the sunspot the power up ability, but everyone freaked out when Lorelei gave you 20% buff on damage. So it was very much like get rid of that. But now we're at a point where Solar Titan is just heal. It's just it's just heal.
Yeah, it's definitely been gutted, which is unfortunate. I remember when the Lorelei first dropped, we didn't have 3.0, and you could sit there, throw up a barricade, have a 20% damage boost, have healing, one-man army, quite literally.
Yeah. Yep. And the thing about it was there were so many ways to counter even the Lorelei build, but pre 3.0, that people didn't want to learn how to counter it. And all they did was complain about it until Bungie did something with it. It wasn't like with Void Hunter with Omni Oculus where it just was uncounterable. People just didn't like how you couldn't just shotgun rush it, so it's a problem. And it's just like, if you actually think about how to counter it, you'll win. Like the amount of times I would be sniped in PvP while wearing Lorelei, or like grenaded or things of that nature, like that showed me there was a way to break it.
Yeah, well, and and then they got that second, or I shouldn't say the helmet specifically, but restoration in general got nerfed a second time in PvP.
Yeah,
and that healing is slow. But one of the things about Lorelei Splendor here, if you read the description of it, okay, it says when you are critically wounded with full class ability energy, or when you cast a barricade, create a sunspot at your location that has improved restoration effects. And Bungie came out. Yeah, Bungie came out and said, "Oh, it was a bug, and it wasn't supposed to have improved restorations." And
so change the text.
Exactly.
Don't nerf the damn thing. Just change the text.
Well, and like there was one thing that I agree with Glad specifically, where there was a point during like the first week of Kingsfall where I would be trying to like someone would say, "Hey, wipe, we have to like redo damage." I'm like, okay, and I had to take Lorelei off to like literally die. Yep. And it was just like, okay, I understand why we need to nerf this a little bit. If I have to take off an exotic to die, that kind of tells me we have a problem.
That is so funny because I remember having the same issue. It's like wipe, and I'm like, okay, and you get your barricade back before the sunspot would even go away.
Exactly. So it was very much like you're unkillable.
Yeah, and which it's still you compare Lorelei with various like glaive builds or sword builds, and it's still very good. But yeah, like you said, the whole subclass did take a major hit.
Yeah,
it really did.
But I still stand by my comments about Lorelei Splendor being.
Like, it still has mad potential. That's how I freaking I solo flawless my first dungeon in Pit of Heresy was with Lorelei. So like it has plenty of potential still.
Oh yeah,
that's how I solo flawless Seraph Shield.
Yeah, so like it has potential.
Lorelei.
Oh yeah.
So like, but
it looks good.
Yeah, it's great. But in terms of the difficulty issue, I think now that we're getting towards sort of the midpoint of the season where everyone's sort of learning the new build system and whatnot, I think the major concerns for me in terms of the difficulty is like the Grandmasters. Because if Grandmasters come out and they're just not beatable, we're gonna have problems. Like,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a big issue overall that I think is gonna be a thing. Is that if grandmasters are just unbeatable, and I think it was the TWAB this week where like they're talking about the master version of Root of Nightmares. I'm like, okay, so the regular version of Root of Nightmares is like easy as crap. The contest mode was relatively hard if you didn't have a busted build. And if the master is just cranked up to 90, we're gonna be dead on arrival.
Yep.
But there's some people who want that, and it's just like,
Okay, and I know I've talked a lot about difficulty.
Good on them.
I do think that high level in-game content should be difficult.
oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Like, Grandmaster Nightfalls, in my opinion, I don't think you should be able to clear a Grandmaster in like sub 15 minutes.
That I can get behind that. I can get behind
Yeah.
like because there was a lot, especially things like Warden of Nothing last season. There was a point where people were finishing in sub 10-minute runs, and it was just like, yeah, this is too much. This is too easy.
Oh yeah.
So like, but I think that my concern with Grandmasters is there's some Grandmasters like Proving Grounds and Glassway where like unless you have a cracked build, you're not getting through that. So if they the Mars, but yeah, that's the thing's even untested from like a Grandmaster standpoint. So like if we roll in there and just get demolished, it's just gonna cause this divide, but also it's gonna create a divide between like the hardcore pro players that they do day one rating and the casuals even more. Because don't get me wrong, and I even talked about it on the last episode when it came to the day one raid, where I'm very much a believer of if you can't create a build or at least know what perks are good on a gun. And I even agreed with sort of what Data said in his Elitist video, where he said, hey, you should not be going into a day run raid your first month into Destiny. Or like, if you don't have at least like a good chunk of the raids in the game done, you shouldn't be going into the day one raid. Like, so if you don't know how to make a build, don't know how to run certain things, you shouldn't be setting foot in a Grandmaster. And that's someone who ran 37 Warden of Nothings last season to get his God roll Wendigo. So I can tell you from experience, if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be setting foot in there.
Heck, I'll straight up say I ran my first ever.
Yes, you did. We took you through
right before Lightfall. First ever, and I've been playing since Season of Undying.
Congratulations.
Well, that tells you how how long it's taken me to even understand enough of the game to really feel confident.
Okay, so
and I had 2 great Sherpas.
Yeah, hi.
So you said you've been playing since Undying, right? That was season 9. That's what Undying was, wasn't it?
That was the first season in Shadowkeep.
Okay, so out of curiosity, did you never take on a Grandmaster because you didn't feel comfortable, or did you not have a fire team that you felt comfortable with?
I will answer your questions, both of them, with yes.
Okay.
Honestly, when we got her part of the clan now, it was very much like, okay, let's start working on build crafting. Like I think her getting knocked upside the head by Nezarek on like her first run of Root of Nightmares finally got her to understand that D2 armor picker needed to be a thing.
Oh yeah. Well, the reason why I asked that is because I feel like so many players that have thousands of hours in the game are in the same predicament. I mean, that's my issue.
I have
I don't
6,000 hours in Destiny 2
there you go.
And
there you
go.
go.
And it took me till about 5,000, 5,500 hours to feel comfortable enough, not only with finding a good fire team that was willing to Sherpa me through. And granted, my freaking first GM was the Scarlet Keep.
I thought it was Ward or Nothing.
Ooh.
No.
Oh yeah, it was Scarlet Keep because I was on Thunder Crash. Yeah, it was on Thunder Crash.
We didn't run the GM together, honey. This was before Lightfall. This was before I joined the clan.
Well, no, I thought you and I ran Ward of Nothing before Lightfall.
No, you didn't.
Oh, who did the fuck?
No,
Oh, it was Potato. That's what it was. It was Potato.
Potato.
That's right.
Yeah, it was Potato. But yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Warden of Nothing. It was me and my former clan, and we went in, and like even then, before we went into the Scarlet Keep, one of the Sherpas who was helping me through sat down with me for a good 2 hours, and we were pulling out, armor from the war table, setting my mods to get me the right kind of stuff to make sure that I was at, tier 9, tier 10 high resilience and discipline. And I ran that on my Titan. I still have to go in and, redo all of my mods and stuff like that for my warlock. Like we literally did an on the fly mod change for Ron.
Yeah, that was very much like when we took her through Ron when contest mode was over. I had to be like, okay, cool, swap this, be like this. And then even then, I'm over here sweating, trying to kill all these ads for her. But then the freaking like Colossus in the back kept shooting her. I'm like, can you stop?
And I was in there with, high tier 9, 95 to 100 resilience and recovery, even on my warlock. And I was still getting destroyed by everything.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, resilience got a nerf this season too, and I think everybody's feeling that.
Yeah,
I know that I feel that.
Yep.
And but like in terms of the overall system now, especially when to talk about the issue of people not understanding things, you could have hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of hours in this game. There was somebody that I met when vetting people for the day one raid who had played like for thousands of hours, had only one King's Fall clear, no other raids, and wanted to run into the day one contest mode. And it was like, huh? What?
And did you, out of curiosity, did you ask that person if they had like friends that play the game or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I asked him. I said, "Hey, like, what was your story? What do you like about Destiny? What got you into it?" He said he plays with his friends sometimes. He's a dad. He plays when he can and whatnot. And I was like, "Okay, that's cool and whatnot." And I even told him, "I'm like, hey, I appreciate that you're super eager about wanting to do this, but this is like gonna kick your butt. And rather than like say no, I don't want you to be here, get good scrub. I want to help you become a better Titan." And he took that as like I'm trying to gatekeep him from the content. I'm like, no, I will teach you every other raid in this game because I can do that. But I don't want to take you in here and you have a horrible experience. And there were still people on the day one raid because I was LFGing through it who were coming in with like horrible guns that weren't even the right thing. One dude came in with a blue machine gun thinking he was going to do something. And it was just like,
oh, no.
It really starts to like check your brain a little bit on the fact that there's a lot of people who don't understand certain things. I was watching a TikTok like earlier today where I think Perception said he gets questions like middle of the week on like Wednesday of where's Xur. Like there's still people who don't know where Xur is. Which Tower, I swear, if you don't go see, you need to go see Xur and go get Verity's Brow because you said you don't have Verity's Brow.
No, I do have Verity's Brow. It's somewhere in my frigging. I have unlocked every single warlock exotic, for the first 4 years of this game.
Then why did you tell me you didn't have a Verity's Brow when we were in the raid?
I didn't have a Verity's Brow in my vault.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
I had nothing to pull out, otherwise it would have been like super low powered. And
that makes sense.
Do that to you or me.
That's fair. But like in terms of the difficulty, it really feels like there's a whole chunk of people who don't even understand basic mechanics of the game, who just had the very little knowledge they had of the game twisted on them with the new mod system coming out. And now they have a whole new mod system. And then Bungie's like, let's make the game harder. And I feel like if they would have been like, let's give them a season with the new mod system and then crank up the difficulty, we wouldn't be seeing this much complaint. Because I'm looking at this forum post, like there's people saying they want to leave the game. They're saying they're done, that like it's too tedious. And I even said previously saying, hey, the days of speed running Lake of Shadows are done. There should be no reason you're doing that. And Wormy said earlier, like there should be no reason you should be finishing a GM in 15 minutes. So like, I'm very stuck in the middle on this, where like I enjoy the harder difficulty, but I understand from a casual perspective why something like this is a problem.
Well, okay, and understand, like on the forum here, allow me to introduce you to the Bungie forums. Every person in here, I can almost guarantee, is a hardcore player. So the people that are saying, "Oh, it's killed Destiny 2 for me," they're being over dramatic. Okay, like you can click on their posts, you click on their profile, and you can see their last game. Oh, I'm quitting the game. Yet their last game was played, earlier today. Or something like,
or they're currently in game right
now. Or they're currently in game, and it's like, oh, I get where you're coming from, but like the over dramaticness is a bit much. Like people, we talked earlier, people have been so acclimated to having content a certain way for, in Destiny 2, 6 or 7 years, something like that, to the point where they're, now that it's been ramped up, people are more whiny about it. And we've seen that happen every time a major nerf comes in Destiny. Okay, think about Gallahorn back in D1. Okay,
yep, you're right.
It was the best, and then Bungie took it away, and I'm quitting the game. This is BS. Oh, why? Because they nerfed your favorite gun. And D1, of course, was a different time. The community was a lot smaller. There was a lot more toxicity.
Gallahorn kick. Those the same people who, when Galley was being sold by Xur, that didn't want to give up a freaking heavy slot for an exotic. Then when they finally got it, they were like, yes, and then they started, whining and moaning about the nerf. Like, come on, people.
Yeah,
it's always the same group.
It is. Well, and that was very early Destiny 2. Nobody knew how powerful Gallahorn would be. It was sold the second week. I think Red Death was the first week, but it was sold the second week. So there was very few players compared to now, a lot less players playing the game. And of course, people look and say, "Oh, an exotic rocket launcher. Why would I want to use my heavy on that when I could, save my strange coins for exotic primary?" That I can use constantly. And of course, those players a few weeks later were kicking their asses, like, oh, like, why didn't I get it? Then you had people, the toxicity of RNG, like, I've done however many Nightfalls, never got Gallahorn. Okay,
they're out here like Gallahorn or kick.
Yeah, exactly. You get the Gallahorn or kick posts and stuff like that. And so Bungie plucked it from the hands of players, and people went nuts. They were so mad, and really, it wasn't a situation where people were upset because they felt like a decent gun got an unfair nerf. Looking at several guns from D2, not going to mention those right now, but they were mad because this weapon that made in-game content a cakewalk was taken away from them.
The infamous line I hear a lot is, "Why is Bungie taking our fun away?"
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah, the people that say, okay, like, like as a hardcore player, that is definitely the casual speaking.
I mean,
I'm a casual.
But I wouldn't say
crap. I think everything is fun.
I wouldn't say it's only
work my butt off.
I wouldn't say it's only casuals though, because like I remember when they said they were going to nerf Eager Edge, the speedrunners were ready to riot.
Okay, with nerfs and stuff like that, you're always going to have a group of people that's going to be mad. Okay, you could nerf Queenbreaker's bow, and you're going to have a group of people that's like, why would you nerf that? Like, this was my favorite gun. I have 50,000 PvP kills on it, or some wild stuff like that. They're going to be mad. You can't make everybody happy.
I mean, to be fair, I've been asking for a Queenbreaker buff for years now, but like no one will listen to me.
Fighting Lion buff.
No, honestly, Fighting Lion's in a bad place right now. Fighting Lion's in a scary place right now at Crucible. It needs to go away.
It's in a yeah.
But
I remember when they
Not so great though. PvE not so great. PvP, sure, let's go.
I agree with the Queen Breaker, but I think they should make Queen Breaker a secondary or a special weapon, and that's all I have to say on that.
Well, my biggest thing with when it came to Queenbreaker was it has the same problem that things like Galahorn recently got, where they're like, "Hey, people are complaining about this gun in Gambit, so let's nerf it because it's having a problem in Gambit." Not, "Hey, let's make a separate sandbox for Gambit because it desperately needs its own sandbox. Let's nerf it across the board because people are upset about it in Gambit." And it's like, what?
Gambit's heartbreaking because Gambit has such high potential, and Bungie they gave it its own special season, and then they treated it like a redheaded stepchild, threw it in the closet, and never looked at it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
I
playing on
love
the same.
I love it so much.
We're playing the same 3 maps that we've been playing for how many years now?
It's been a few, it's been 2-3 years since Beyond Light came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just keep saying, hey, I don't understand why you took away the Dreaming City map when the Dreaming City is still in the game, but what do I know?
Oh yeah, I don't know why they took that. It's the same thing with the one on the Tangled Shore. I didn't think it was a bad map.
Yeah,
and
until I
Gambit
got rid of
needs
the
more
Tangled
maps.
Shore, it was fine.
And the thing is that like they legitimized keeping other maps in the game for PvP by saying that
It's a simulation.
in lore, yeah, it's a simulation. Osiris gave Saint all these simulation type of things. They could have legitimized keeping all those maps in freaking in Gambit for the same reason. But
Right.
no, they didn't. Like, you could have gotten rid of a couple more maps in PvP or in trials or whatever and let Gambit keep their 5-6 maps. Like literally, that's all we had.
Well, and also, keep in mind, Gambit, just like Crucible, is part of the free-to-play aspect of the game.
Yes, it is.
And so that's why it doesn't see much love. But unlike PvP, you don't have a large player base to speak out against.
There's people who don't even understand how to play Gambit right now.
There are people who play Gambit with dialogue and sound off. So, yes, there are people who play Gambit with subtitles and audio off.
But like Drifter's commentary is so good though.
They don't like the sound of Todd Habercorn's voice.
Oh my god.
Like, come on,
look,
people.
That's wild to me because I'm always listening because hey, you've got enough to pull a Primeval. That's my cue. Hey, turn around and run back to that freaking
right.
And I do it every time. I turn around and run back to it, and I see my team trying to get 15 motes.
Invaders on the field. Like, okay, invaders on the field. Let's find them. Let's get this person down so I can keep, doing my stuff. Like,
you want to do the thing, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to do the thing, damn it.
Yeah, to be fair, when I do Gambit, I am a huge fan of invading and invader hunting.
Yes.
And like in terms of and this kind of goes back into the difficulty situation that I've been noticing. There's one thing that not only Worm talked about recently, but also I think November Hotel talked about it. The issue of champions, because champions are in both raid content and PvE content across the board now. And I believe even did Gambit Prime have champions, or am I wrong?
No.
No, Prime did not.
I think that was before they even introduced champions of the game.
Okay. So, but in general, I think the issue with because people are saying champions are a problem. I don't understand that because there's people who say oh, I don't like that I have to cater my guns a certain way for content.
Hey, that's true. I actually agree with that statement. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish. But
no, you're fine. But see, here's my counter to that. You're asking for harder content. Why wouldn't a modifier or a certain thing, there's things that slow your cooldowns, there's things that do certain that make you take more damage when you're in the air. There's certain modifiers in general that make you hit to do more damage, or if you're in a strike, there's things like Grenadier. So what is the difference between those and you having to use certain weapons for certain things. And also, it actually makes certain weapons viable for a season or two. It actually rotates the selection and makes things viable for a certain time, makes
It
you
does.
change your play style and make different weapons come like become playable when there's times where you would never think. Like back in the day when Tikus first came out, everyone thought Tikus was ass. They thought when Season of the Chosen first came out, they said we would never use Tikus. Overload Bow came out, they were like, oh, Tikus is amazing. Like there's certain things that roll out and you think it's never going to be used. And then look what happened. They said, hey, yo, we're going to give you, I think it was either Overload Grenade Launcher or Unstoppable Grenade Launcher. And then it was like, hey, look, Anarchy and Wither Horde are dominating. Like, they're doing work. And yet people are saying we don't like having our guns forced to change. Look at things. I remember when Outbreak Perfected got its catalyst put back into the world loot pool. And you find everyone started to finally get the Outbreak catalyst done because it wasn't locked behind the mission. And then they're like, hey, we're going to give you anti-barrier pulse rifle for GMs this season. And I remember going through Inverted Spire with Outbreak. And it was dominating. It was doing work.
Oh, yeah.
So like when people are saying I have to use certain mods for a season, I'm like, hey, yo, what are you doing? Like, why are you complaining? I don't understand. Like it really bothers me because people said, hey, we want something harder. We want to have to work for our thing. And Bungie said, here's this. And they're like, I don't want that. Like, I don't get like, but so I would very much enjoy a back and forth here on this.
So, okay, so I think the thing with anti-champion mods for weapons, number one, that was the only way to stun champions back in the day. So if you had a season where, like, you know, you had weapon archetypes that you didn't really like, you know, I don't like hand cannons. I've never really been a big hand cannon user. A couple seasons ago, Unstoppable Hand Cannon was the only mod to use. The entire season, I didn't enjoy it. I tried to use anything else. I tried to use what was it? The Solar Melee Unstoppable one. I tried to use other exotics.
Oh, okay.
It just, you know, it was like I don't like hand cannons. I like almost every other archetype of weapon in the game. I can find a love for. I mean, technically, even hand cannons. You know, I got a Fatebringer with explosive payload and Firefly. It's a great hand cannon. It's just not my favorite thing. My preferred weapon is SMGs and auto rifles. Like I like to spam the heck out of my out of my shots. But you know, on a season, and remember, season is 3 months long. Yeah. If I can't use, you know, an SMG or an auto rifle for 3 months in-game content, it's not gonna be fun. You know, I mean, yes, I can make it fun, but it's not going to be as fun as it could be. It was like, hey, like I have to limit my loadout. I can't use my God roll whatever weapon I have now because of the anti-champion mods. And so when Bungie made this change to incorporate anti-champion into our subclasses, I think that's wonderful. I don't think champions are an issue anymore. I think now if you're still complaining about champions, I mean, you really have a specific build that you just love using and hate using anything else, or you're just complaining to complain. Because now, like, you can find so many, like, you can have so many options to have an anti-champion build through your subclass, you know, your grenades, melees, your weapons, artifact mods. You have so many ways to stun champions. It's not as much of an issue anymore. I think one of the reasons why people complain about champions so much, and I don't think it's champions, I think it's overloads in particular, because overloads are I have choice words that I want to use, but
especially when Stasis first came out, overloads were a problem. Like, especially it was bad.
Overload captains.
With
their teleportation.
Oh my god. Yeah, they teleport like 20 feet away from you.
Oh, and they keep teleporting every single time you hit them. Just bing, bing, bing.
Yep. So a fun way to combat that, if you stay at a range, they won't teleport as much.
Yeah.
But again, that ties back in, you know, if the only anti-barrier perks, or not barrier, or overload, the only overload perk you have is for SMGs and auto rifles, and you're up against a captain where if you get within SMG auto rifle range, he starts teleporting like a madman, you know, it's like, ugh, why is there not something else I can use to stun him? One of my favorites overload mods that had ever existed was overload bow, because it was so easy to stagger.
See, like here's my thing with that though. Like, I agree with you. I hate hand cannons overall. I even hate them in PvP because I'm that person.
Wow, really?
Because my hot button topic with that is I don't give a fuck how, like, what hand cannon, whether it's a 120, 140, 180. If you can kill me with a pistol before I can unload an entire clip of SMG or auto rifle ammo into you, that tells me that there's an imbalance with this game. Because in real life, if I unload an AK-47 into your chest and you only hit me with 3 bullets, something's wrong here.
So 2 things. Number 1, Destiny, as much as we would love it to be, is not real life. But number 2, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it because it's kind of controversial. I think it boils down to a skill issue, because I don't have.
I actually eat that.
No shade, no shade. But the reason I say it is because I am let me see. I have my Crucible stats here. I have 16,000 kills with SMGs. Crucible kills with SMGs. Okay, my next highest, that's my top highest kills. Next highest is sidearms at 14,000. And then supers and melees are next. That's funny. But coming from an SMG aficionado, I've used every archetype. I've used precisions, aggressives, which aggressives are hot right now, and Taraba is my absolute freaking baby. But every single SMG category can kill hand cannons quicker. Okay, hand cannons 140s, which that's the popular one, have a 0.83 second time to kill. I think does that sound about right? 0.83?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I think that's what it is. They have a 0.83 second time to kill. The SMG category that has the closest time to kill to that, still less, is as a precision frame at 0.8. All the other ones have a higher TTK, between 0.7 or 0.67 and 0.77. So you can kill faster with SMGs, but you do have to be able to manage, you have to be able to manage your range. If I get killed by a hand cannon, instead of being frustrated, like that hand cannon user, because that's how I used to be, right? A long time ago in Destiny, I used to complain, like, it's so BS, like, everybody uses hand cannons, blah, 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 blah. Started taking a step back and say, hey, why did I get killed by this hand cannon? Oh, well, okay, number 1, I'm challenging at, 27 meters, and my SMG only reaches out to 20 meters. Hey, I am not hitting my shots, like I am doing whatever, and I acclimate for those discrepancies that I'm running into. And almost every single duel I get in with the hand cannon, if I am within range, I can win the duel. And hell, even when I'm out of range, if I can hit mostly crits and make them miss one shot, if a hand cannon user misses one shot or hits a body instead of a crit, it's an easy cleanup with any SMG in the game.
That's a fair assessment. Here's my thing though with that. When it comes, like, because I'm a pulse rifle aficionado, because if you look at my Crucible report, my top 3 kill types are punching, shotguns, and pulse rifles, because I'm that guy. Even before pulse rifles were meta recently, I was that guy who'd run into Crucible with a Darkest Before and would still do mad work.
Darkest Before.
So good. And because for a long time, right before pulse rifles got buffed, my loadout for everything was Reese Walker and Darkest Before. So I was that guy. And now it's to the point where everyone's like, oh, pulse rifles are overpowered. No, they're not. They're very much in a place where they can win duels. They have a chance to fight against the hand cannon meta. The hand cannon meta isn't the dominant force anymore, and people don't like that. They have to actually engage in long range fights and not be able to rush up in someone's face and just take them out with 3 taps. And people get frustrated by that. But my biggest issue is, if I put 3 bursts of a pulse rifle into you, but you put 2 points of an ace of spades into me, there's a problem here if you kill me. That's my big issue. There's been times where I'll have a messenger and I'll shoot someone point blank and they're at 1 health. But because they had an ace of spades or another hand cannon, they win that fight. And I'm just like, what?
So let's see, your messenger. Oh god, messenger has a stupid fast time to kill.
It really does.
Jesus. So in terms of pulse rifles, I think people are complaining about pulse rifles now because they've been kind of at the top of the meta for a while.
Only 2 seasons.
Well, that's a while. to me. That's so wild to me. Which, players, they don't like when metas stay the same. And we know this because look, we've got an SMG meta and people are complaining about 750 SMGs. Man, I've been using an 750 SMG for I don't even know how many seasons, and I've never once heard a complaint about it.
I think the issue with SMGs that I kind of found out recently this trials weekend was I was shooting someone with my messenger across like the whole like length of from A to C of IO, and someone was able to range me with an immortal. And that tells me the range on SMGs needs to come down a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, I made a video the other day talking about SMG ranges and stuff like that. I think SMG ranges definitely need to be capped. I think that, a precision frame, which is the 600 round per minute archetype, should be capped at like maybe 23 meters, but everything else needs to kind of taper down. As 750s capped at 20. That's a hard cap. Like, max range, you're sitting at 100 range on your SMG, you're hitting full damage up to 20 meters, and then a big drop off of that. And I actually watched Astacross video after I made mine, and he had a very similar opinion. I was like, hey, look at this. I think the same freaking thing. I don't think that 750s are broken. I think that now that we have a Trials SMG that is insane, and not only is it insane, but it has an insane roll. Target lock. I don't know if y'all get a target lock.
Target lock scary. Target lock bad.
Did y'all happen to get a target lock?
I got one. Scary.
I don't do trials, but I do have target lock on other weapons, and yes,
okay, well,
it's scary.
Yeah, target lock on other weapons is good, but like on 750s, it is insane because it literally can drop your Yeah, it can drop your TTK to like 0.56 seconds, which is almost the fastest TTK in the game, right next to Last Word, which is 0.53. But you have to hip fire and get 3 crits with it. So it's nutty good. And remember, target lock, that doesn't have any other stipulation other than just hit your enemy. It's not like kill clip where you have to get a reload, get a kill, then get a reload, or rampage where you have to get a kill.
It's just hit the enemy.
Free damage. And when you look at how many players can do that, like Cake, that's when it becomes an issue. And I think target lock definitely needs to be looked at for these, for the Trials SMG. But, I have a fear that what Bungie's going to do is they're going to do the blanket nerf. They're going to nerf.
Yeah.
They're going to nerf 750 so that's, okay, well, the Immortal is now performing where we want it to. But if the Immortal, which is the, stat-wise, the best SMG in the game by, like, a lot, if the Immortal's performing at a perfect range, what's going to happen to all the other ones? My baby, what's going to happen to TWAB?
Well, Terra has needed a nerf for a hot minute. That thing is out of control.
Okay. Here's the thing. Let me find it.
Because at first the issue with TWAB was it was like it's kind of like what's been happening with Le Monarch, where it was an underground, like really annoyance in every piece of content. But then when all the other SMGs started to float upward, like Ikilos recently, that became the issue of now we have Ikilos, we have TWAB, and now we have Immortal and Shiras all kind of just blanketing the field in gunfire.
Okay, so with TWAB, it's been out for how many years now? It came out, I think season 8. Season 8 is when it came out, and where's my list here? Okay, yeah, here's my data. I've got data pulled up because I actually took I love the gun so much. I took a poll on how many TWABs I encountered over an entire season in Crucible games. And every single time I encountered somebody else using it, I would log it and what map it was on and stuff like that because I was just curious. There was a tiny, like I have so many zeros on here because there's nobody else using it besides me that it's unreal. Okay. I still, even with 750 SMGs being as hot as they are, I still don't encounter TWAB. 2 weeks ago, before Immortal came out, I still did not encounter TWAB in-game, or in Crucible content. Like, it's, I know everybody's saying, oh, well, it's flying under the radar. Is it realistic?
I think it was the PK. I think when everyone realized PKs were really good, and people are even saying nerf PKs. You can't really nerf PKs because they're specific to an exotic. But when Peacekeepers first started to be relevant recently, and it happened around the same time that that Titan's Ramparts became relevant, because you never saw Peacekeepers doing anything. You never saw Sight Rampants doing anything because they never saw a nerf
statement.
They never saw a nerf or a buff whatsoever. And then Bungie went, hey, we're going to nerf these, or they nerfed Titans because people were complaining about it, even though it had done nothing. And now that Peacekeepers are just sort of like floating up in usage because SMGs are better, everyone's like, nerf Peacekeepers. And it's like, no.
No, Peacekeepers definitely don't need a nerf. Like, they do something very, very specific. Like, you know, I think in my exotic rework video, every single exotic that had just a specific weapon changing function, I said just leave it as it is. Peacekeepers is that way. Like, yes, you know, it makes your SMGs absolutely beastly, but you're giving up, you know, Dune Marchers. And they're, you know, if you with Peacekeepers, you can run at the same speed that you can with Dune Marchers, but you have to have an SMG in your hands. You can't do it with a shotgun or anything else. I don't think Peacekeepers need a nerf. And really, I know this is a difficult situation, but outside of a range nerf, I don't think 750s need any kind of nerf. I think.
Oh, no, I agree.
Like. It's
just the range. Like I even said, like target lock can be looked at. That's fine. I'm not that worried about that overall. But specifically, it's the range, because if I'm being outmapped while shooting a pulse rifle at somebody and they're shooting me with an SMG, something is wrong.
Did you happen to look at the roll that he had?
I did not.
I can almost guarantee you with certainty it probably had target lock, because target lock, like, basically extends the range of your SMG. You know, if you're hitting at, what is it? I think 22 a crit is what that 750s do. You know, and you're out of your range, and so you're starting at 19. Well, as it's ramping up, like, you know, even though it's not giving you that faster TTK, it's matching your TTK at further ranges. And then of course you throw on rangefinder, which my Immortal has rangefinder and target lock.
Ooh.
You know, it's
oh no.
I got it and I was like, okay, like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. Like, I love SMGs. You know, I wanted dynamic sway tap the trigger because that's my role. But you know, I'm here. What's the hype everybody's talking about with this weapon in terms of rangefinder? Because here's the thing: I never crafted an Ikilos SMG with rangefinder. I never kept a borrowed time with rangefinder, because for me, rangefinder, like, I know everybody talks about, oh, like SMG range is so important, blah blah blah. When I'm using SMGs, I'm not at long ranges. Like, I am up in the grill. I'm within that. I'm within, you know, 10 to 15 meters of players, and and I know everybody says, oh, well, range ties into, you know, what is it, aim or accuracy. I'm like, again, my accuracy is on point. Like, I can hit somebody with TWAB, you know, all crits, mow them down in that 0.77 second time to kill. You know, but everybody, you know, they preach about range and stuff like that. But rangefinder, you know, I don't think it should be on SMGs anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like we need to have a similar, like, take quick draw off of Fellwinter's and Astral situation where we just like lift the perk off of SMGs.
Yeah, replace it with like surplus or something.
Like, just like because I feel like that would fix a lot of issues across the board that people are having. But like, to revisit the main topic though, specifically because I wanted to revisit what you said about hand cannons. I actually had the opposite effect when Overloaded hand cannon first came out during Season of the Splicer. I had the opposite effect happen, where me never really liking hand cannons and anything, and I think hand cannons and PvE especially feels weird as hell. But when I finished Vault of Glass on Master, and I got a Fatebringer with Explosive Payload and Frenzy, took that into Glassway, and I felt like a god. Like, you couldn't touch me. I was running around with a scout rifle and a hand cannon, and everything was just dying. And it felt amazing because everything was working the way it's supposed to, and it went very smoothly. So I think when people get stuck in their ways to a certain extent when it comes to the champion system, even before the new changes, they felt like Bungie was forcing them rather than Bungie's trying to give me a challenge. And that's what really kind of like ruined champions for people. And And then there's the other topic of just across the board with enemies and like difficulty, where people are saying they're too bullet spongy. Here's my thing. What are we supposed to do with enemies beyond give them more health and give them more damage output in terms of difficulty? Like
Okay,
Right?
you know what's
If
funny?
people are gonna whine about, champions and stuff, then what else are they gonna do?
like what more can we do to a Colossus to make it like more deadly than how it was in day one contest mode? Because I'll say this. A Colossus on day one contest mode, unless you just nuke it on site with a Starfire protocol build, that machine gun can one shot you. And it was hurtful. So
Oh yeah.
I'm very much trying to understand what more can we do to some of these enemy types for people to be satisfied with the difficulty.
Okay, so actually I think I talked about that in my video today that I made earlier. In terms of making things more difficult, I think champions being bullet sponges, so to speak, I think that's fine. Like they are technically classed as mini bosses. Is that right? They're classed as mini bosses.
Right.
So it makes sense that they have high health pools. Okay, they're not a drag, they're not a vandal. Like they should have high health pools. But what you're saying earlier about how do we make enemies more difficult? Besides giving them more health, I don't think it necessarily needs to be more health. I think the primary focus that Bungie should have to increase the difficulty would just be the damage. Okay, if you're running through, a strike, for example, and you come across a dreg, you should be able to kill that dreg, or a vandal, or a captain, something with a little bit more health. You should be able to easily kill that captain or vandal because it's one-on-one. If you run to 3 of them, same thing, it should be easy to cut through them because your weapons are dealing the same amount of damage because they don't have more health.
Right.
However, if you run into 10 dregs and they're all dealing more damage to you, you have to analyze your situation a little bit better. You're still equally as powerful in terms of your weapon damage. So, enemies aren't going to feel bullet spongy, but enemies are going to be more of a threat to you. Snipers are going to be, dangerous because like, okay, I need to prioritize snipers because they can one-shot kill me. Maybe not in strike, like common content, but in higher level content, you need to prioritize your enemies and play safe. Weapons still do the same damage. You're still equally as powerful as you were before, but now the enemy's power has been brought up to match yours. And I think that would be a better way to increase the difficulty over.
So you're saying make the enemies glass cannons?
Yeah. I mean, I really wouldn't even say glass cannons. Like, revert their health back to the way they were last season. Give them increased damage, not to the point where like you're getting one shot by everything, but to the point where if you're taking on a group of 4 or 5 vandals or like 7 or 8 dregs, they're gonna cut through you if you don't play carefully. Let's say okay, like hey, I got a grenade here. Throw a grenade, it instantly kills all of them. Perfect. You use your grenade to combat that scenario.
That feels really imbalanced though, because like you're saying, like if I can one punch a dreg should be able to one punch me versus
so not don't bring the damage up that much. Like that would be.
Well, that's what the metaphor might be wrong, but I'm like that's what it kind of sounds like. Is like if I can like punch it and kill it, it should be able to like punch me out or bring me to low health. Like. But so if the health bar is the same, it should be able to put out more damage. It feels like very imbalanced. I think that's the word I'm looking for. It feels imbalanced.
So the reason why I actually bring that up is because if you think of a bunch of other games that have varying degrees of difficulty, for like they got you can start easy, you can start normal, hard, whatever. They often have scalars where you do more damage. Okay, one of the things that comes to mind, I know I'm going to get hate from somebody because I'm going to compare Destiny to Fallout. Okay. They're not the same games, but in Fallout, if you're playing in was it survival mode, every damage that's dealt, whether it's by you or towards you, deals more damage, right? So you could, in theory, be walking around as a glass cannon. Like, yeah, like, like you, the player, can come across a Deathclaw, for example. And yeah, that Deathclaw is probably going to walk up and one hit you if you're not careful. But also, if you've got a minigun, you can shred that dude down really quick. I think something similar in Destiny should be brought forward to the table. You know, like I said,
So
you know,
let me try and like get this right here. So what you're saying is basically almost like a single drag isn't going to do much to you
no,
regardless. It's
no,
still
yeah,
going to be, you can kill it pretty easily. What you're
mhm.
saying is like when it comes in, groups.
Yes,
So almost like a
density,
mini horde mode.
exactly. In terms of density, you know, that's whenever things get more threatening. Because
Yeah, the more there are, the more damage they do to you.
exactly,
When
like
it's like the
obviously,
red bar enemies kind of a thing.
yeah, exactly. Like obviously, like you know, a vandal shouldn't be able to snipe you and then melee you and you die. You know, I'm not saying that, but if you're in a situation where you walk into like the Glassway, there at the end of that, you know, right before the boss room, there's that pit. When you get to the end of that pit, I think there's a total of 6 vandals that are sniping at you.
Yup, you're right.
Yep.
And of course, in Grandmaster content, that's a death sentence if you don't take them out.
Oh yeah.
Even in regular content, instead of increasing the vandal's health, require players, okay, like I can kill him pretty easy, but I need to watch my 6. I need to make sure that I'm you know, carefully angling myself so I can take out 1 or 2 at a time and not get sniped by 4 at a time, because you know, 4 sniper shots should kill any
So they
guardian, in
kind of
my
do
opinion.
that in the Avalon mission right now. That's currently
Yeah, exactly.
when you get to the puzzles and you have to shoot the confluxes,
Ew.
there are every single time you finish a puzzle,
Yeah.
there's 4 hobgoblins that are coming in and sniping. So you have to prioritize killing off the hobgoblins
Yep.
first
Yep.
before you do anything else to deal with all the rest of the ads that are around you. Because
Exactly.
those
You know,
guys, there's no angles where you can hide from any of them.
So
exactly. And like I think especially the Avalon mission is actually a great example. Like the legend, I don't know if y'all have attempted the legend version.
I have
Not
not
yet,
yet. I
Okay.
need
no.
to.
Let me tell you something. That is, I guarantee you, that is one of the hardest things that you can do in this game. The enemy density is so thick, and you are not a glass cannon. You're just the glass part of the glass cannon. You know, if enemies had their health changed back so that they, you know, the red bars didn't have as much health, the yellow bars didn't have as much health, it would feel easier, but it would still have that difficulty challenge to it. You know, hey, we've got to play safe because there's, you know, 6 minotaurs coming at you. We need
Right.
to use
Right.
grenades. We need to use supers. We need to use our kit. We can't just use guns, or we have to use heavies to clear them out. But at the same time, like it doesn't feel like, you know, now if you do it, you can throw like, oh, I'm gonna throw you know, what's it called, shackle grenade, and shackle them all. You can shackle them all, but your weapons can't kill them fast enough before they're unshackled.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
In
that's
the normal, I usually have to, eat my grenade, throw my super, and immediately heal.
hmm
Because I run infinite threadlings. So
oh yeah, let's
Mhm.
go.
even
That's
just
fun.
first that first puzzle area on normal, I'm having to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to kill as many ads as
Oh yeah.
possible so I can then so that way I don't have to worry about anything while I'm focusing on those hobgoblins up above.
Yep. That's yeah,
So
that's
like I feel like the biggest thing that I've started to understand by sitting here and listening to this is Bungie sort of tried to give people a Dark Souls experience. And I don't mean like as like the metaphorical Dark Souls experience. If you actually sit down and play Dark Souls and you go through and beat the first version of the base game, there's a thing called New Game Plus. When you go into New Game Plus, things are scaled up.
yep.
Everything hits harder, and you dish out less damage.
Mhm.
So they started to take, and each time you go to the next New Game Plus, like you can go like to like New Game Plus 30. It
Mhm.
keeps raising the bar, or even if you summon somebody to your world, it makes the enemy's health bar thicker and makes things tougher and whatnot. I think that's what Bungie tried to harness was sort of the From Software method here. And I think they sort of got it right to a certain extent, but I think over across the board, people aren't really satisfied with it. They wanted the difficulty to rise, but then they're mad that it's almost too high for them, or not what they expected it to be, or
Well,
they got their privilege checked. And it's like, I
Yeah.
understand certain like how you're saying, like, you got to like take your time, because people thought they could just bum rush through content and have no consequences. And then they got their privilege checked. They had to
They're
start going back
all
through.
eating humble pie. That's
Yeah,
what
like they
they're
got the
all
humble
eating.
pie. They had to sit there and figure it out. They
They
don't
don't
like the fact
like
they
it.
have to work for it. And like,
Yeah.
that's what you're seeing across the board, is people like not happy about it. And like you actually have to build craft. You can't just walk into a strike with a cost off and think you're gonna get out scot-free. You actually have to like work for it. And it's like, I think people are just salty at the fact that they have to actually work for it. And I've said it multiple times on the show before. Get good is not part of my vocabulary. I'm saying you actually have to try. And people are frustrated they actually can't just turn their brain off and just do whatever they want.
And you know what? That ties exactly back into what I was talking about earlier, you know, with Gallahorn's nerf way back in D1. Like, players, they get acclimated to something being, you know, the standard, and when you change it, then they throw a big fit about it. You know, and that's why, you know, I was pointing out on the forums, like, all these people complaining are hardcore players. They're not actually quitting. They just need a chance to vent and get their dramaticness out. Because here's the thing: at the end of the season, everybody's going to be acclimated to the difficulty.
Exactly.
And if people, if hardcore players are actually quitting the game, I don't think it's because of difficulty. I think it's because there's other reasons why they might be quitting.
Honestly, yeah, you're kind of right. So like, I think that was a great way to kind of like push everything to the forefront. There is just getting people to understand that you actually have to put a little bit of hustle to it, and understand that there's more to it than just brain dead through it. If you're trying to brain dead this content, then you got to like check your understanding at the door and start to relearn the game. Now, granted, do I think similar to what, and we're going to talk about this next week when it comes to PvP, similar to what Bungie is introducing for trials when it comes to the system of, let's have a lower pool for newer players, that should be introduced for like, because taking away the like adept version of Nightfall might have been a mistake, but like, there should be a track or a specific locked setting for newer players before they get dragged into harder content, because they're gonna get their butts handed to them like over and over again, to the point they don't want to play the game anymore if they do that. Now, granted, I think a similar situation has happened recently with contest mode, or the raise of the difficulty. Like, I'll go back to the Dark Souls metaphor, where you see people trying to go down to an area of the game where they're not supposed to go yet because it's an open world, and like there's people who will try to go down to the crypt before they're supposed to, the catacombs, and they can start getting one shot, and they're like, I'm not supposed to be here, and they go the other path. I feel like Bungie needs to do a better job of explaining the new player system and stop leaving it to the YouTubers and the content creators to guide people on that. Granted, we can do that to a certain extent, but like, the default shouldn't be go look up an Aztecross guide. It should be Bungie tells you, hey, this is what you need to do to accomplish this certain thing. And then that's kind of why people have been upset about the Guardian rank system, is because it doesn't really incentivize you or reward you for helping new players, because everyone's sort of in rank 6, 7, 8, 9 right now, where it just tells you to complete a certain amount of Nightfalls or a certain amount of Crucible or whatever, or kill a certain amount of champions or whatever, and then you're done. It's not about helping people or doing anything like that. I think I saw in Dato's video, he was like, he has to beg people for accommodations of a certain degree and like rank 10. And I'm like, that shouldn't be what we're doing here. There should be a way to guide new players so they're not getting their butts kicked. And then for like long-standing players or people who've been playing the game for more than 6 months, you should be comfortable with this new system, in my opinion. Granted, on day one, did it kind of kick me in the teeth and make me go reallocate myself? Yes, but because I wanted to brain dead through it and test out the new bow, and I got my butt kicked a little hard. So now we're going in with a new system. new stuff, and I think by like next season, I think people will have adjusted. But that's just me.
I agree with what you said. I mean, I think that it makes sense to have Bungie guide new players better than what YouTubers are doing, you know. And I can say this, and it's not suicide because I don't make guides and stuff on YouTube, but yeah, I agree.
Well, and there is that divide that I think you talked about recently, where people think that YouTubers and whatnot are hypocritical or feed into things like, oh, they're mad about the immortal when they told everyone to go get the immortal.
Yeah.
Like there's those kind of situations that are happening right now when there's some people who don't even know who Bife is. There's some people who don't even know who Astrocross is, and they don't even know how to make a build or anything like that. There's still people who don't read the TWAB. I was talking to someone in our clan today who didn't know that Trials was getting reworked because he didn't read the TWAB. And I'm like, why don't you read the TWAB? I just don't. I'm like, you gotta read the TWAB, dog. You gotta know what's up. Like, you have to know what's going on. Otherwise, you're not gonna have a good time.
Patch notes too, all that kind of stuff.
That's why I like retweet the patch notes. That way people understand what's going on. Because if you don't know what's going down, you're gonna get frustrated. Like, there's still an issue where the dang winter bite is busted and Bungie can't seem to get a grip on it.
Right.
So it's just like, I think there needs to be a little bit more effort put in by the casual audience, but also there needs to be an understanding from the rest of the player base that you need to put effort in if you're going to survive this new system. Now, are there outliers like the Mars Battleground? Yes, we very much have made that clear. But like overall, I think the difficulty system right now is just decentivizing people from speedrunning content, and they're salty about it. Like, there was people mad that you couldn't speedrun Master Keitel, and I'm like, you weren't supposed to speedrun Master Keitel. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, you're literally in like a 0.1% of players that can do that. Like, you can chill.
Right. So yeah.
So in terms of difficulty, and this is going back a little bit, but I definitely feel like this made the game harder. What are y'all's thoughts on the nerf to Divinity that came? Was it like 2 or 3 seasons ago?
Tower, you go first because I have thoughts.
Honestly, as primarily the div bitch in raids, I didn't really see much of a difference. She still bubbles, she still causes crits, she still gets the goddamn damage done. She still does work. And I'm fine with it because, like I said, I don't really see much of a difference. I mean, if people are upset about it, you know, as long as they've got valid reasons, you're absolutely valid to be upset about it. But like, I'm still gonna run div and raids. I'm still gonna help my team get that damage done because honestly, div is one of the ways in which I feel most viable as someone who is, you know, not very confident in raids.
Yeah.
If I can help my team out by helping them get more damage on a boss and do it with div and do it well with div because I really do well with div. You know, not trying to gas myself up or anything, but like
You're a
I
pretty
said,
good div bitch. What can we say?
hey, I am your div bitch. I will always be your div bitch.
Do you tap fire?
Oh God, yeah, of course.
Okay. You have to tap fire.
Anyone who does not tap fire
is insane.
needs to
Need to
go. No, they need to go into a freaking like lost sector or whatever, and they need to learn how to tap fire because it is the only way to conserve ammo.
So when the div nerf first was announced, I was very much like, why? Like, I don't see a point. I don't see like there was any reason behind it. I think it was very overblown. I think Bungie chose a very poor time to do it because Salter Grandpa was bitching about it and people found a target to target him about it, and that sucked. I do think what a lot of Salter Grandpa says is overhyped, and he needs to sit the fuck down. That's just my 2 cents, and I've said before, if he wants to come on the show and defend that standpoint, you're more than welcome to. I will be very courteous to you because I have a lot to say in regards to how you view the game. But
oh my gosh,
because let's keep it a $150. Well does not need to be nerfed, but in terms of Div specifically, when it was first coming out, my biggest concern with the nerf was if they nerf it too much, it's going to make Garden irrelevant. It's going to make Garden have no until they make Garden weapons craftable. No one will ever set foot in Garden again. But what they've done with it is still make it viable. But in reality, they really didn't do a whole lot with it other than make it less easy to just demolish a boss. Like you saw a drop in people just one phasing things like friggin' War Priest, Nezarek, like War Priest. You actually had to start thinking outside the box and start using tethers and different things like that. You couldn't just rely on Div to carry you through the content. So
absolutely,
from that angle, I very much think Bungie hit the nail on the head with what they wanted to do, which is reintroduce other methods of things. But on the other hand of the topic of Div, I straight up told people from jump, if they nerf Div into the ground, y'all did raids before Div. Y'all have me running up with tempered metal and doing stuff. Like you had tractor cannon, you had things to do before Div. So I don't know why y'all complaining when we did the raid just fine beforehand. So I was very much in the middle where I was hoping it wasn't too extreme, but even if it was extreme, we survived before it.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. Absolutely on the same page.
Yeah.
I agree. See, my thoughts initially, I was kind of I was upset about the div nerf. Not for a personal reason, but because Divinity is one gateway that casual players can use to actually beat bosses.
Oh yes.
Because if you take exactly. a team of very casual players and they hop in, a raid, they're not going to be one phasing a boss, even with Divinity. Okay, they're not going to. Divinity makes it easier and more accessible. Hell, think about Rolk. I'm sure everybody can agree. Rolk without Divinity would be a freaking nightmare.
That would be horrible.
That would be a madhouse. Okay.
Yes.
Nezarek without Div. Nezarek with Div is difficult.
Yeah.
Nezarek without Div would be insanely difficult. Okay, and so my initial thoughts on the Divinity nerf was like, it's not fair to the casual player because they're having, something that makes content more accessible to them taken away.
Yeah.
Then the nerf happened. It had been out for a few months, and I reevaluated my thoughts on it, and I was like, you know what? Actually, no, I take back what I said. Like Divinity being nerfed, yes, it does suck for like casual players, like they can't do it as easily, but Divinity is still the best option for DPSing in terms of a debuff. It gives you free crits. Like not only does it give you the damage boost, but it counts every shot as a critical.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
Thunderlord came out of the woodwork and did work.
Oh my god, I used Thunderlord to kill not Rolk. What's his name?
Nezarek
for the first time. Man.
Melt.
I put on double arc surge. I didn't realize. I guess I don't think anybody on my team had the double arc surge because like I had like 1.5 million more damage than anybody else. Than like the next highest person on the team, and they're like, "Oh my god, what were you using?" I was like, "I was using Thunderlord." And they're like, "There's no way I was using Thunderlord too." I'm like, "Did you have double arc surge?" Oh no, I didn't even think about that. Hey, you see it? You gotta think outside the box. But again, Thunderlord. Why was it good? Thanks to Divinity. Okay, Divinity still sees major usage because it allows for that ease of use in the game. And so I think that the Divinity nerf was ultimately warranted at the end of the day. Like, even though like people complain, but that's, you know, that ties into what we had talked about earlier. Like, people are gonna complain about things to complain about things.
Yeah.
They're gonna complain about Divinity being nerfed. They're gonna complain about difficulty being nerfed, or what's hot right now. Starfire Protocol is gonna get nerfed at some point, and
I mean,
people are
I
gonna
said it straight.
complain about it.
I'll be the first one to say it. Like I said in the last episode, the only reason why people thought the day one raid was easy was because of Starfire Protocol. If Starfire Protocol wasn't the way it was, people would not have thought the day one raid was that easy. I'll be the one to say it.
I'm surprised they hit Heart of Inmost Light and not Starfire in some way, because that blows. I'm like, yo, Bungie, like, how? Like, Starfire Protocol Warlock build is so strong. It's so strong. Like, every streamer who I popped in to see, you know, what builds they got, it was Starfire Protocol.
Like, it was like when you watch the Heart in the Paint day one team, they straight up because like there was people who were stuck in the planet room for hours. Like my team still was stuck in there for like 4 hours. And then you watch the Heart in the Paint video, they were almost a full team of Starfire Warlocks just nuking everything from suborbit, just throwing grenades and destroying everything. And you would look at their stream and like nothing was in the boss room, nothing was in the arena whatsoever. And it was like, did you break the game? Did you do something? About like, no, we just threw grenades on everything. And it was like, wow, so you just trivialized the entire encounter because you had a broken build. So it makes you wonder, if Starfire wasn't in the game, how long would it have taken people to beat that raid?
Exactly. You know, and of course we know how it's going to play out. Bungie's going to say they're nerfing it, and people are going to be mad. People are gonna, to be frank here, utterly lose their shit. Okay, that's what's going to happen. Right. It's inevitable, and it's life. I mean, Titans. I remember when they nerfed Heart of Inmost Light, you know, and they announced they were nerfing it. You know, the forums were flooded with Titans. This is BS. Like, this is the only thing that made it fun. Okay, is it really the only thing that made the game fun? You mean
I just said it. I made a TikTok that went freaking viral about it, because I was the one that straight up said, if you take away like GX Clyde and his bonk build, if you take away like Heart of Inmost Light overall, if you take away Symptoceps and the Broken Bonk build and Heart of Inmost Light, what do Titans have? Thunder Crash, and even then, that's still not great for high-end PvE, because you risk yourself dying when you fling yourself at high-end bosses. A Banner Shield with a Ursa Furiosa is like it. Like if you're not running Ursas, or like now you can run Stasis for everything, because Stasis Titan's gonna be broken for GMs this season. I'm calling it. Like literally, there's nothing for Titans because they refuse to buff certain exotics, like Eternal Warrior, Hallowfire Heart. Like Hallowfire Heart's seen a little bit of play right now because of the Firebolt, but otherwise Hallowfire Heart's garbage. Like there's so many exotics that are sitting in people's vaults or in collections that mean nothing because Bungie refuses to do anything.
Yeah, I have 3 whole videos about all of them.
You do, you really do.
Don't even get started on the new Titan pants for frigging Strand. What do? Oh my gosh, they give me 2 more Strand waves on my barrier.
That's nutty.
Right.
That's strong.
Hell, even the friggin' what was it? Kefri's Horn. I saw someone in Iron Manor today running Kefri's Horn and actually killed a couple of people, and I was like, wow. So Strand made Kefri's Horn viable for 5 minutes. It took a whole expansion and a new subclass to make Kefri's Horn viable.
Yeah.
Hold on. Tower, are you saying that the new Titan boots are not good?
They're
or
not viable? No, they're not viable.
Are you okay? I have
okay. Listen to me.
I have to respectfully disagree.
Listen to me. They don't do shit except give me 2 more waves to my barricade. What the hell is that gonna do?
Okay, hold on. Before we continue this, we're gonna wrap this episode up for you good folks.
Wait, hang on.
But that way we can go bitch about this in Iron Manor as a team. But don't forget, folks, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all those great places. You can follow us on Twitter at Cosmodrome Radio. And the worm. Since you are our guest, what is your closing statement for this episode?
Thank you for having me. I do really appreciate it. It's been great to talk Destiny with like-minded individuals.
Yes.
Yeah, I really do appreciate y'all having me, and hopefully we can do another one in the future.
Most definitely. You're always welcome to come back. Apparently, you and Tower are about to fight about some pants. Tower, other than pants, what is your closing statement?
God damn, you're gonna turn me into Destiny the meme now? Is that what it is?
I mean, you already curb stomping people on Twitter, so now it's pants. So
I'm not curb stopping people. Anyways, my final word is just fine tune the difficulty, Bungie. Please bring it down a little bit more. I'm not saying bring it down to 1750 or whatever. 1810. That's fine. Especially for legend stuff. Like, make it viable for people like me who are who are more casual and have a difficult time getting their power up. You know, I shouldn't.
we gonna talk about that. We gonna work with you on that.
Well, I shouldn't. I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be. Basically doing contest mode in a legend law sector. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
My closing statement is to all those who have Vietnam War flashbacks, hearing the immortal in your sleep. I am there with you, because all I hear this week in both in Trials and in Iron Banner is the sound of the immortal, and then when I go to bed, all I hear is the sound of the immortal. And to all those using the immortal in Iron Banner right now, you will taste my Wither Horde and you will like it. Because I will gild my seal for the third time this weekend, and I don't care what anyone says. You will not stop me with your stupid SMG that has more range than God. But we will catch you folks next week on Cosmodrome Radio, and we will see you Starside. Peace out.